So, today we're going to talk about one of the most exciting pieces of tech out there right now, the Neo Home robot. But we're also going to use it as a perfect example, a kind of how-to guide for figuring out how to separate what's truly a game changer from what's just really, really good marketing.
Right out of the gate, Neo's creators, 1X Technologies, make this unbelievably bold claim. They're not just saying, hey, we built a cool robot. No, they're saying they've built the first one that's actually ready to live in your house and work alongside you today. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Is this a future we've all been dreaming about, the one from all the sci-fi movies? Or are we just looking at an extremely sophisticated and very, very expensive prototype? Let's dig in.
All right, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the dream they're selling us. Then, we'll crash it back down to earth with the reality. We'll peek under the hood to see how it actually works, figure out the true costs, see how it stacks up against the competition, and wrap up with a little toolkit you can use for the next big thing.
Okay, so let's start with that dream. What's the perfect picture 1X Technologies wants you to have in your head when you imagine Neo walking around your home?
I mean, the promise is just incredible. Neo is supposed to handle all the boring chores you hate. We're talking folding laundry, loading the dishwasher, even helping out with cooking. It's designed to be this quiet, friendly helper, running at only 22 decibels, which is literally quieter than your fridge, and with its soft body and these special tendon drive motors, it's built to be super gentle and safe. It's the whole sci-fi package ready for your living room.
All right, so that's the dream. Now for the reality check. What actually happens when you get Neo away from those perfectly polished marketing videos and into the real world?
And this is where we see a huge gap between the hype and what it can actually do. Those fast, efficient chores, turns out they're painfully slow. The seamless helper, one reviewer actually said it was like spending the day with a toddler. And that fully autonomous assistant, yeah, it needs a whole lot of help from humans.
Let's put some numbers on that, because this is where it gets wild. In one test, just grabbing a water bottle from 10 feet away took over a minute. Loading just a few dishes in the dishwasher, more than 5 minutes. This is what led critics to call it a hype reel in a prototype's body. It looks amazing in those short edited clips, but the day-to-day is a different story. And here's what might be the biggest deal breaker of them all: the battery life. Right now, Neo can only run for 2 to 4 hours before it needs to go charge. That really puts a damper on the whole always-on, ready-to-help assistant idea.
So this all brings up a pretty obvious question. If Neo isn't really autonomous, and it's so slow, how in the world does it do all those amazing, complex things we see in the demo videos, like cooking a steak? Well, the answer is in a system that's, pretty clever, but also kind of controversial. It's how they bridge that massive gap between what the AI can do on its own and what they promise you it can do. The secret sauce here is something called expert mode. Basically, when Neo gets stuck on a task it doesn't know how to do, a human employee back at 1X headquarters puts on a VR headset and literally takes control of the robot. They pilot it remotely to get the job done. So it's not the robot doing it alone. There's a person pulling the strings.
And when you understand that, their whole business strategy just clicks into place. Step 1, sell the robot to people who are super eager to be first. Step 2, use human pilots to make the robot seem way smarter than it is. Step 3, while you're doing all that, collect tons and tons of data from inside people's homes to train your AI. And Step 4, use the money from those early sales to pay for the rest of your research. In other words, the first customers are paying to be beta testers.
So what does this all actually cost someone who decides to bring Neo into their house? And believe me, the price tag isn't just about the money.
Okay, first let's get the sticker shock out of the way. You can buy a Neo for $20,000, or you can get a subscription for about $500 a month. Either way, this is definitely a luxury item, for the wealthiest tech fans out there. But the other costs, well, they're much bigger. As AI expert Gary Marcus said, this whole model is the next stage in the surveillance capitalism journey. And why does he say that? It all comes down to what that expert mode really means for your personal life. Think about it. When you let Neo into your home, you're accepting some serious risks. On privacy, you've got a remote pilot, a total stranger who can see everything the robot sees, basically getting a virtual tour of the most private parts of your house. On safety, you have a 66-pound machine that could just fall over on a pet or a child. And then there's liability. Who's on the hook if it messes up and, turns on the oven or floods your bathroom? We just don't know. Now,
1X is definitely not alone in this race. The whole field of humanoid robots is getting really crowded, really fast. So let's take a quick look at how Neo compares to its biggest rivals.
You can see everyone's kind of betting on a different strategy. Neo is all about the home, so it's focused on being gentle and safe. Tesla's Optimus is built for the factory, so it's all about raw power and endurance using their car battery tech. And then you have Figure 03, which is laser-focused on advanced AI and making its movements incredibly smooth and lifelike. Everyone thinks they have the right path forward.
So after all that, what did we learn from Neo's story? How can you use this the next time you see a jaw-dropping tech demo pop up on your feed? Well, here's a simple little framework. Here's your how-to guide for cutting through the hype. First, always question autonomy. Ask yourself, is this real AI or is there a human behind the curtain, like with expert mode? Second, follow the money. Are you the customer buying a product or are you the one paying to fund their R&D? Third, look at the true cost. Go beyond the price and think about the privacy and safety risks. And finally, check the specs. Look right past the flashy demos and find the real limitations, like a 2-hour battery life. Which really brings us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. The story of Neo really shows that we're at a crossroads. As these amazing machines start to come into our homes, into our private lives, we have to ask ourselves, are we actually the customers? Or are we just paying to be the product testers?